in Mark's gospel is that it was recounted by a man named Peter. Have you heard of him? He was a very outspoken disciple of Jesus Christ. He was the one, I don't know if you're like this, he would say what everybody else thought. He was filter free. And so when he was right, he was really right. When he was wrong, he was really wrong. I'll prove it to you. He said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." He said, "You are Petros, this rock. You are Peter, not Simon, not Shifty. Upon this rock I'll build my church," the rock of his revelation of who Jesus was. A few verses later, Jesus said, "Get behind me, Satan." And he was pointing at Peter because Peter said, "You can't go to the cross." And Peter opposed the very thing that Jesus came to do, all in the same Bible chapter. This is Peter. Peter is the one telling Mark about this story so Mark can write it down. Peter is the one recording the audiobook, okay? Peter is the one giving Mark the gospel account. Mark wasn't a disciple. Mark was an evangelist. He compiled the story. And Peter told, look, I'm going to show you something. We have four of these. We have four gospel accounts. The gospel is the good news of Jesus Christ. When we say the gospel of Mark, it's the gospel according to Mark. When we say the gospel of Luke, the gospel of John, the gospel of Matthew, that's the gospel account that they wrote down. John said that Jesus did so much. If you wrote a whole book, you tried to write down everything he did, the whole world could not contain it. If you wrote down all the works Jesus did, Wikipedia would break. So they had to decide what was significant enough to put in the gospel account that would prove what they wanted to prove about who Jesus was. So when Mark got ready to write, he said, Jesus walked to the disciples in a storm, and when he got in the boat, the winds died down. When Matthew got ready to write it, he included something that Mark left out. And I'm going to read you now from Matthew 14. It's the same story, but there's one detail in this story that is omitted in Mark's gospel, which is based on the recollection of Peter, and it's in Matthew's gospel, but not Mark's. So here's what we'll do. This will be an interactive class. When I get to the part that wasn't in Mark's gospel, stop me. When I get to the part that where you're saying, wait, that wasn't in the other one that you read before, I want you to wave your hands and stop me. This is the only time that you are allowed to tell me to stop preaching. You can tell me to preach anytime you want. Preach, Pastor. But when I get to this part today, I want you to stop me at every location. Let's start in verse 22. Immediately Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. So far, so good. We're good? Keep going? Keep going? Yeah, it's similar, very similar, very similar. A few words different, same stuff. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake, and when the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come." Okay. What's wrong with you? Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. This is amazing. Hey, if I was writing my memoir, I'll put this in.
Hi, Yogo.
Because watch what happens next. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on water, and came toward Jesus. Oh, I'm totally putting that in. I'm totally including the part where everybody else was in the boat crying out in fear, and I was walking on water, transcending the laws of buoyancy. Babe, if I ever walk on water, and they're writing a story about my life, you make sure they. If I ever walk on water, if I ever physically, I'm not saying they will, but if they do, leave
but I have
this
a shoot.
in. Let somebody say this is significant.
I have a shoot, and I'm getting ready for that.
So how can Peter? This is a good question. Tell Mark. You know, I think people probably just about sick of hearing about this thing. Do you really think this is Turn to your neighbor, say, yes, Mr. Brown. Peter's like, if it's you, tell me to come. Jesus like, no. And John's like, no, he said, Peter, you're dumb. Because I mean, two people can hear.
We're getting shoot. We have a shoot in a few minutes.
It's Yanni, not Laurel, but by the way. It's Yanni. It's Yanni. It's Yanni. Come to the altar. It's Yanni. You need your ears open.